In this video, we're gonna take a deep dive into the specifics of card grading, comparing BGS and PSA grades, as well as what specific details these companies look for that affect the overall grades of your cards. Now in this case, we have a card that has 4 9.5 subgrades, so it's very obvious to see this card is going to have a 9.5 overall grade as well. But what happens when one of these subgrades is a 9 or one of them is a 10 instead? I think it's important to talk about that. Not every BGS 9.5 is worth the same amount of money. In this case, this one has all 9.5 subgrades, so that's something that people in the hobby would call a true gem. A true gem plus would be one that is a 9.5 overall grade and has 3 9.5 grades and a 10 grade, or 2 9.5 grades and 2 10 grades. In the case of BGS, they do not round up. If you have 2 10s and 2 9.5s, that card's overall grade is going to be a 9.5. Now, if you have 3 10s and 1 9.5, that card will be a 10. And like we talked about earlier, if you have 4 perfect 10s, that card will be a BGS black label. And it gets a little bit confusing if you have 3 9.5, say, and an 8, or a 7, or a 6, or a 5. BGS does have a maximum number over the minimum subgrade that your card can grade. And that's important to talk about as we talk about what would a BGS card grade for PSA. So if you have a card that is a BGS 9.5 with all 9.5 subgrades, that's a card that's probably either going to be a PSA 9 or a PSA 10. And it's hard to know exactly where it's going to fall, but that one's a little bit easier to predict than a card that has 3 9.5 subgrades and a 7 subgrade. In that case, that card's probably going to be a PSA 7. PSA is known for being really strict, and normally whatever your lowest subgrade is, you can count on that being the highest grade for your PSA grade. Now, PSA and Beckett, they do look at the same 4 things: edges, surface, centering, and corners like we've talked about, but PSA is particularly tough on a couple. The 2 that I think they're toughest on: corners and surface. And I've learned this the hard way too many times. I've submitted a couple thousand cards in my life, and I'll tell you, when I was submitting those first few hundred, I made a lot of mistakes. I still make a lot of mistakes. Anyone that tells you that they get grading right all the time is lying to your face. So one of the times that I remember in particular, for you soccer fans out there, I had a Rafa Marquez rookie card. He plays for the Mexican national team. And I thought this card was sharp. I sent it in, grades popped. I got to go check them online. I'm excited, 9 or 10, I hope I'm gonna hit it. 3.5, you wouldn't believe it. That card in a 3.5, I think, is worth less than $3.5. And I got it back, I was like, what in the world is wrong with this thing? I looked at it, I looked closer at it, there was a really slight crease in the card. It was a thin sticker, so it was prone to bending. But that's another thing you really gotta look out for with PSA. The corners, if corners aren't good, don't expect to get a great grade at PSA. And if there's any creases in that card whatsoever, you probably don't wanna send it to PSA, or maybe even anyone. Most of these companies are pretty tough on creases. If you have any questions about anything we covered, comment below. We'd love to know and answer those questions. And be sure to subscribe now and stay tuned for more awesome hobby content. Most of all, happy collecting.